and you mean, just think about it for a minute, is if you run your society on the principle that everyone successful is a power-mad thief, how is that going to work? How can that possibly work? Because what happens, this certainly happened in the Soviet Union after the Russian Revolution, is anybody who's productive gets killed. Yeah. Well, that's obviously not going to work very well if you don't want people to die.
Go ahead, yeah.
This is just kind of off, going back, but one thing I realized too, because I went to university and got a degree, but I think one of the biggest flaws is the university and all these people expect you to, you should know your degree, you should know what you want to do later in life when you're 19 years old. Yeah. So I think that's one of the biggest flaws, and I don't know how your academy compares to that, but I just remember looking around at my friends.
Well, we are in the process of developing technology to help people specify what they're interested in, right? And so that's the problem that you're describing. Now, part of the advantage to university, historically, and this is partly why people were willing to pay a premium for it, is that it was sort of a time out in your life in that transition time between adolescence and full independent adulthood, where you could be awarded a social identity, student, right? So that gave you a role, and it allowed people to presume that you weren't just a waste of time, and that you had time to explore while you were catalyzing your final choice. And so, and the reason that we're offering to begin with something like a general humanities degree with a leaven of science, let's say, is precisely to allow people that opportunity to explore. But we're also developing technologies that will help people identify what they're interested in. And so this is something to know, and I write about this also in my new book. You might say, well, how do you discover the purpose of your life? Okay, so there's a variety of ways to approach that. You could say, well, you can look at what interests you. Okay, so some things call to you, you find them compelling and engaging. You have to watch yourself and see what those things are, and you can pursue them. And so that's positive emotion pulling you forward. But then there's a regulatory mechanism that goes along with that, which is something like your conscience. And so your conscience is like the voice of negative emotion, and it tells you when you're wandering off the beaten path towards your destination. And it informs you with guilt and shame about the inadequacies of your behavior. But you can also use that as a way of discovering your purpose or your destiny, because virtually everyone, imagine there are things you're interested in, but there are also things that bother you.